The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to this recording, which will give an introduction to the call for Key Action 203 strategic partnerships in the field of higher education. I want to start by looking at the priorities of strategic partnerships as they are a crucial part of the application form. The Erasmus Plus programme has significantly evolved from predecessor programmes such as Comenius. It is now much more strategic with clear objectives and priorities. So some of the feedback we have received from assessors in previous years was that some organisations were weak at making their applications personal and relevant to all of the organisations involved in the partnership. The assessors also commented that some applications did not explicitly show how their project linked to the Erasmus Plus priorities. It is therefore important to remember that your project will be assessed against its relevance. Each year, the European Commission sets horizontal and sector-specific priorities for Key Action 2. These are priorities that the European Commission would like Key Action 2 projects to address or target. Horizontal priorities are priorities that are applicable across all fields of education, training, and youth. Priorities relevant to each individual field of education, training, and youth are also set each year, and these are referred to as sector priorities. To be funded, strategic partnerships must address either at least one horizontal priority or at least one specific priority relevant to the field of education, training, and youth that is mostly impacted. So in this case, you would need to address the specific priorities for higher education. It is really important that you clearly demonstrate to the assessor how your project is relevant to both your organisations and the priorities of the Erasmus Plus programme. Here you can see the field-specific priorities for higher education strategic partnerships. These are important to consider because depending on the priority and the objectives addressed by the projects, you should involve the most appropriate and diverse range of partners in order to benefit from their different experiences, profiles, and specific expertise, and to produce relevant and high-quality project results. So an important factor to consider when completing the application is who can apply for funding and who can be involved in a Key Action 2 strategic partnership project in the field of higher education. And this is what we are going to look at next. So on screen now is the list of countries that can participate in Erasmus+. Programme countries are those that are part of the European Union and also include the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Iceland, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Turkey. You can find this information on page 22 of the programme guide. So now to look at partnership composition. All Key Action 2 projects are organisation-led, which means that individuals cannot apply directly for a grant from the UK National Agency. While a staff member can complete the application form on behalf of their organisation, the project remains the organisation's responsibility, even if that staff member leaves the organisation. A strategic partnership is transnational and must involve a minimum of 3 organisations from 3 different programme countries. There is no maximum number of partners. However, the budget for project management and implementation is capped and equivalent to 10 partners. All participating organisations must be identified at the time of applying for a grant. Please note that all higher education institutions that wish to take part in a Key Action 2 strategic partnership in the field of higher education must hold the Erasmus Charter of Higher Education. If you are unsure whether your organisation holds the ECHE, please do contact us. There will be a contact details slide at the end of this presentation. As a general rule, strategic partnerships target the cooperation between organisations established in programme countries. However, organisations from partner countries can be involved in a strategic partnership as partners, but not as applicants, if their participation brings an essential added value to the project. This has to be justified clearly in the narrative sections of the application e-form. Please note, activities of learners as well as long-term activities of staff from or to partner countries are not eligible under strategic partnerships. Please be aware that the applicant organisation must be legally registered in the United Kingdom if you wish to apply to the British National Agency. Therefore, sole traders, partnerships other than Scottish partnerships and limited liability partnerships, trust and unincorporated associations are not eligible to apply for Erasmus Plus funding. For more information, please see the list of eligible participating organisations on page 112 of the 2016 programme guide. So while your project will involve a number of organisations from across Europe, only the lead organisation of the partnership should submit an application. This submission is made on behalf of the whole partnership. Project partners do not need to submit the same application to their own national agency. Higher education projects in the field of strategic partnerships for Key Action 2 are multi-beneficiary grants. This means that if your project is funded, the lead organisation will receive the contract and funds. The lead organisation is then advised to organise their inter-organisational agreements with their partners. So, as a reminder, the deadline for applications is Thursday, the 31st of March at 11 AM UK time or 12 o'clock Brussels time. I cannot stress enough how important it is that you submit your application well in advance of this deadline. Last year, many organisations left it to the last minute to submit their application and faced technical difficulties submitting successfully due to things such as firewalls being in place. We cannot accept late applications. Anything submitted after 11 AM UK time will be considered late and ineligible. Considering that this deadline is applicable to all sectors of the Erasmus Plus programme, the UK National Agency will be extremely busy in the run-up to this day. By submitting early, you allow yourself enough time to contact us and for us to have time to support you in rectifying any problems that you are experiencing. So please do not leave it until the last minute to submit your application. Now we're going to have a look at the budget category. An Erasmus Plus grant is made up of budget categories, which together make up your total grant amount. Understanding this helps. Project management and implementation funds will automatically be added to your grant total as it is calculated according to the length of your project. You can see on screen the wide variety of activities it can be used for. One of the biggest questions we get asked is if funds can be used to hire an external contractor to work on the projects. So funded projects can use some of the funds in this budget category to hire an external contractor if, without this, the project activities could not go ahead and if it directly facilitates the implementation of the project. You must keep in mind that if this leads to poor quality of project implementation because there are not enough resources for the organisational and dissemination tasks, this would put your project at risk of having its final grant cut. It is up to the partnership to decide whether it can reallocate some of the money and still ensure that the project is carried out as planned and at a high quality. In any case, beneficiaries will have to abide by the provisions set out in the organisation's grant agreement and the 2016 programme guide. Transnational project meeting funds can be applied for, although you need to justify the need for meetings in terms of the number of meetings and participants involved. Meetings should be applied for where virtual cooperation such as Skype is not sufficient. Now to move on to intellectual outputs and multiplier events. Intellectual outputs are activities requiring substantial staff input in order to produce tangible and significant outputs. They include publications, for example, academic papers, needs analysis, curricular and course materials, new methodologies, training materials, assessment methods and materials, handbooks, advice and guidance, case studies and good practice, websites, although not platforms for project management, innovative uses of IT, and ICT-based tools and software evaluations and reports. If required, separate funding can be requested to cover the production of such intellectual outputs. Funding for intellectual outputs can be claimed as part of the application form. To distinguish the production of such outputs from those covered by the funding automatically award to a project for project management and implementation, these intellectual outputs will have to be set out in detail in your application form, demonstrating clearly the concrete outputs and the related effort put into producing them. The outputs should be innovative and creative and be developed with a clear aim of transferring